Hello, I thought I'd do a video on the water hose replacement on a GSXR 750. This is a K6 model. Pretty straightforward job really. There are a couple of tricky areas which I'll show you in a moment. These are from AS3 Performance, found them online, came within about 2 or 3 days. And I also got a hose clip kit with it as well, just to replace the OEM ones. So the first thing to do, of course, is to drain your system. I won't go into too much detail over this because there's quite a few videos online on how to do it. Sorry about that, I'll just turn this around, makes it a bit easier. Take the radiator cap off, take the cap off on the overflow, drain the bottom of the overflow here, make sure you've got a bucket to hand. If you're going to do a full hose replacement, I suppose what you could do to make it very much quicker is actually take these two pipes off and then the water just pours out. I didn't, however, I just undid this nut here, this is the bleed nut basically. You need to bleed it through here in any case. And it just pours out of there and it comes out in no time at all. I think probably with a litre or so of fluid in there. When you do take the hoses out, however, there is still fluid in these lines, so just be careful of that. Make sure you've got a bucket by, otherwise you're going to have a cup full of water that's just stuck in these lines here, because they hang actually below the bleed. Right, so what have we got then? Left-hand side replacement here. All the hoses are actually shaped exactly as they are as the OEM part, so you can see down there. So these external ones here are dead easy to get in, no problem at all. Just watch underneath here when you actually got this clip on, because the hoses are very close together and they're thicker than the OEM ones. This is a little bit more tricky to get access to and to slide it in, so you'll need to just fiddle around with that. Front, of course, no problem at all. This one at the top of the radiator is really tricky. Not so much getting it out here. As it winds through the back of the engine here, you can see where it fits. I'm not sure, I'm not doing a great job here with the camera. Oh yeah, there you go. You can see on the left hand side there that it fits onto the back of that housing, and on the right hand side there's another pipe. This is really tricky to get out. I found it on my bike because it was corroded on and there's not a lot of space to work around it. I've got a power commander which taps into these lower injectors, and I was really cautious not to actually clip any wires here. I don't know if I haven't at the moment until I get the bike started, but I was very careful not to do that. So that, I would say, this is the trickiest one to get on, because the OEM hoses are pretty rigid, and so getting that on there is quite tricky. I did use a little bit of hand soap just on the outside of the housing there to actually squeeze it on, so that worked out. That worked a treat. The right hand hose here is not too difficult at all. Coming around the other side of the bike, again, these are very easily accessible. Top and bottom here, and the bottom hose again running to the bottom of the engine here. These are really straightforward and easy. The only thing I would say is that these OEM clips here, which clip the two hoses together, this bleed hose isn't quite big enough. I'm going to have to get another one of these at some point to actually clip that in better, because obviously the OEM hoses are a bit smaller than these in diameter, so that's just not quite the trick there. But yeah, generally say pretty straightforward, nice easy job. I don't know if there's any more performance to be had out of the pipes, to be honest with you. They just look a bit better, so hope that's of some use to you. It took me, I would say, about an hour to get the hoses off and about an hour to put the hoses back on again. I took my time, didn't rush it, and in terms of difficulty, not too difficult, apart from that hose at the rear, like I said earlier on. That was the most tricky. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. Anyway, hope that helps, and I've got another video on Hell brake hoses, which I'm going to do very shortly.